Hey guys, welcome back to another week of Life's Worth Living podcast. I'm your host, John Gossett, and we're grateful to have you back for another week, another episode. And tonight, before we get started, I want to thank our sponsors. We'd like to thank GTM Builders for allowing us to record in their beautiful model home and for the support over the years for the foundation. We sure couldn't do it without them, and so we're grateful to have them as a partner in this. We also would like to thank, tonight's episode is brought to you by A. Warner Homes Real Estate. If you're thinking about buying or selling, interest rates are low, reach out to A. Warner Homes Real Estate at 801-867-5078. And again, we have another sponsor of tonight's podcast, and that is Comfort Inn and Suites in Lake Point. And so if you're coming to Tooele County, or if you've got people coming to visit, want to put them up in a nice hotel, check out Comfort Inn and Suites, or give them a call at 801-250-3600. So, each week I get excited to be able to have guests on and people that I have that are friends that we work with in prevention, and tonight is twice as good. I've got two guests here. And so we've got Peter Clegg and Kevin Neff from Tooele County Health Department. So super excited to have you guys and
thanks for inviting us.
Talk about well, hey, what else are you going to do on a Tuesday night in Tooele? So no, I'm really excited to have you guys here, and we've got lots of good stuff to talk about tonight, things that are going on and stuff. But before we get to that, there's a lot of people that listen in Tooele County, but there's maybe some people that don't know you from outside the county. And so I kind of want to introduce you guys, and I'm going to let you do that. We'll start with you, Peter. Tell us a little bit about you and how long you've worked in prevention, where you've lived, your family. Give us all the good stuff.
So I am a multi-generational Tooele resident. And so nice. I was born and raised here. I was actually born in the Tooele Valley Hospital that was a block up the street from the house that I grew up in. So I was born up the street, lived in the same house my whole life. I'm born and raised here in Tooele, and I've been in prevention for just a little over 2 years now. And I like you mentioned, I work for Tooele County Health Department, and I've been acting as the prevention services coordinator. And so that entails both the substance misuse side of prevention as well as mental illness and suicide.
Nice. Well, I'm not going to point out how old you are, but so the hospital you were born in is no longer a hospital. What is it?
No, yeah. So this is where things get a little bit weird. Is that it actually has been converted into a haunted house, and so that's the haunted hospital. So people actually, I probably should have prefaced with that it's no longer a hospital, but it's the haunted hospital, Asylum 49.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't uncommon as a teenager to, around this time of the year, September and into October, to hear chainsaws running and people screaming up the streets. So.
That's always real soothing, right?
As long as it's in the asylum and nowhere else, you're all right.
Well, I like pointing that out because I actually, I've been in Tooele long enough to remember when the hospital was there. So, we've kind of taken a step in the right direction. And so, but that is, something crazy. You can tell your kids and grandkids that, you were born in the Asylum 49. Mm-hmm. So, well, tell us about you, Kevin.
Sure. So I'm a Tooele transplant. I've only been...
Get out.
All right.
No, I'm just teasing.
So I was born and raised on the opposite side of those mountains. Riverton is what I called home for many, many years. But to give kind of my background on prevention and how it led me here was that prevention is what motivated my master's studies at the University of Utah. I got my degree in health promotion and education. I was working with actually a lot of diabetic patients as an interpreter, and thought to myself, man, why can't I just go back in time and be like, hey, here's what you need to know to not have to sit through this meeting again and again and again, right? And so that motivated me to do that. But then I had the opportunity to begin working as a prevention specialist for substance misuse, mental illness, and suicide, which is something that's near and dear to my heart. I'm sure that if I were to ask, our virtual audience, if you've ever had experience or know somebody who has been affected by suicide, every single hand would go up.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm no different to that. And so that led me out here to take a leap of faith across the mountains, bring my family out here, and now we're very happy to call Grantsville home. We welcomed our daughter in the Mountain West Medical Center, a step up from us at 49.
Definitely a step up.
In January, and we'll figure that any more kids that come along will be Tooele County residents too. So we're just real glad to be here.
Well, once you're here, we don't let you leave. So
Fair enough.
so you're here for the count. But so if we back up a couple of years ago when you guys came out here, or not came out here, but started working for Valley Behavioral, and there's probably some people that are kind of going, "Whatever happened there? What's going on?" So you want to tell us how that came about? There's been some transition and some change, kind of within who's running what.
Definitely. So Tooele County has undergone some major changes in terms of their human services, specifically in terms of behavioral services. So Valley Behavioral Health was the managed care organization, also known as an MCO, for both the mental health and the substance misuse disorder treatment services. And that was an agreement, a contract that was with Tooele County. And on top of that, they were also running the local food bank, and which had a resource center component to it, as well as the victim shelter for domestic violence victims, and they lots of other types of wonderful programs. And probably the past year or so, that those contracts have changed, and the county has sought out to turn behavioral services into an opportunity to have a network of different providers rather than one organization being to manage those the Medicaid contracts in particular, Medicaid and Medicare contracts. And so that's been opened up, and they have somebody set up. I'm not sure if I'm at liberty to say of where that's at. I'm kind of out of the loop with some of those details, but prevention services, which is kind of why we're here, was kind of part of that mix. Valley was housing the SUD, or substance misuse disorder prevention program, for probably a good 15, 16 years or so.
At least, yeah.
At least. Clear back to when the human services was under the direct supervision of the state, and some of those transitions. And so somebody that our listeners may be familiar with is Julie Spindler. She was the prevention coordinator at that time when it was still operated by the state and transitioned to Valley. And it was at Valley at the time, Valley Mental Health, before they rebranded. And so fast forward to about to the end of June of this year, we were at Valley, and now we've been over at the Tooele County Health Department, and they started a new bureau for prevention services. And so we're kind of tucked in underneath other human services like aging, that are somewhat a separate division of the health department, but which focuses on health, right? The public health, and then there's this human services aspect, and that's kind of where we got kind of put in that, and we have great partners now. That same contract where with the parts of the contract with the food bank and the resource center and all those things have gone to SwitchPoint, and those partners, and as you're well aware, that's been a great arrangement, and they've been able to do that.
Yeah, we've been really lucky to have them step in. I noticed that Carol Hollowell, the CEO of SwitchPoint, just got Entrepreneur of the Year.
Oh,
is that right?
She was awarded that. She's a really amazing lady, and so yeah, it's going to be a good deal, I hope.
No, definitely. I think that this has been a net improvement in terms of the amount of resources, and I feel like the health department, we speak the same language because they're focusing more so on the prevention aspect, right?
Yeah, this has been a win-win, really, because it gives us an opportunity to reach new avenues. Again, speaking that same language with like-minded professionals, and we get to keep Valley as a partner, which I think is really wonderful. We don't have there was no ugly breakup, right?
No.
It's really amicable. Everybody is kind of in a better place because of this, and I think that's just wonderful. And we get to continue the work in the community that we love, that Peter's been a part of his whole life, and that has become near and dear to my heart in just under a year, over a year now. So it's great that we're able just to keep that continuum of care going.
Well, I know that as that transition was coming, I was like, well, I hope we get to keep everybody. I hope you guys aren't leaving on us.
Yeah,
so I mean,
They
that
kept
really,
us too.
Yeah, they
that was a great thing.
definitely. And we did have to undergo, the proper channels and make sure that we applied and we formally interviewed and things like that. And luckily they found that we were capable and competent for the positions that we had, because we were
That would
able
have been a
to.
shock.
That would have been a bummer, find out, well, I got the job once, but you guys actually got the job twice. So, that should make you feel good.
Yeah.
I should say something about the job we're doing, I hope.
Exactly. And so yeah, as a community, and I could say this for myself, back before I was working with you guys and stuff, when you're not in the loop, you kind of wonder, who's doing stuff. And so once you have those familiar faces and stuff, it's good to keep everybody going. And so that's why I was so glad that you guys are still here and still part of what's going on and everything. So it is a win-win, and we've got some great people that in the community that are working hard. So tell us a little bit what's going on in prevention from your aspect within the county.
I'll let you start on this one.
Yeah, sure. So what's really exciting is, especially kind of piggybacking off of that topic of the transition, is that Tooele County Health Department has a cycle where they go through a community health improvement plan. Mm-hmm. And as part of that, there is a suicide prevention work group, because after doing a needs assessment, they saw that was an area that needed significant attention and resources. And so with us coming over, we've been able to play a larger part in that work group and bring people to the table. You're invited to those meetings and you attend those. We have different community partners, like the school districts there. We have law enforcement representation, 12 city communities that care, but all with the purpose of addressing this concern, right? That lives we're losing lives in our community due to this very it's very sensitive topic, right? And it's hard to talk about.
Right, and a lot of the difficulty surrounding suicide prevention is that in a lot of ways prevention is very loosely defined, right? Mm-hmm. Some think of suicide prevention as just like you're saving the life, you're grabbing somebody. Rather like I grabbed onto this thing before the phone spilled, right? Dramatic example, thank you. But we see it more as what we really focus on. Our work is more upstream prevention. So the idea behind that is that we're adding protections and reducing the risks of someone developing the thoughts of suicide that could precede a crisis, right? So the way that we describe this to so many people is the classic analogy of an ambulance in the valley or a fence at the top of the cliff, right? That we can spend a lot of time and a lot of money. There's a lot of visibility in the ambulances rushing to the rescue and getting someone to a hospital and bringing them back from the brink. But what's ultimately going to help more is getting that fence right at the top of the mountain so that people stop falling off it, right? And so within the suicide prevention world, we refer to these things as risk factors. And where there are risk factors, there are also protective factors as well. So, you want to speak to that, Peter?
Yeah, so that
You're fine.
My mind just went like a million different ways.
Hey, I do this every week, and if you sit and you think, oh my gosh, what's wrong with him? That's just me. It's tough to keep all that stuff on track. You got a lot of stuff on the what you're working on.
Definitely. That I think that because prevention and suicide prevention in particular is defined, has so many different definitions based off of who you talk to. I promise we'll get to your question of really what's going on in prevention in our community, but that I think that something that I've observed, before coming into prevention, I worked as a case manager, working and a crisis worker, going in and talking to individuals who were thinking about taking their life, and I think that in that world, suicide prevention is very downstream, like how Kevin here was talking about that ambulance down the valley kind of concept, where you're trying to save that life.
It's a last-ditch effort.
Last-ditch effort. You're trying to bring this person down off the cliff, or off the wall or off the building, trying to talk them down, and this is a very valid form of saving a life and suicide prevention. What we're talking about and what we focus on a day-to-day business is those upstream, before the issue of suicide is even a thought.
Before it's even a crisis.
Before it's even a crisis, right? And so, if what we're focusing on is trying to really keep to really try to prevent emotional stress that takes people down that path.
Yeah.
Right. And so, some of these things may not, when people see these types of efforts in the community, they might think, well, what does that have to do with this? It's hard to make that connection between A and B and C, but what we are always trying to do is see what the science shows, what is effective, what is evidence-based, so that way we can add credibility to those upstream efforts, because sometimes it is hard to connect A to B to C. And so, these types of things could be promoting resilience in the home and having those discussions around a dinner table, and parents bonding with their kids, and parents having those clear discussions and know who the safe people are that they could talk to when things get difficult. That those are the kinds of things that reduce that emotional stress, that lead to greater consequences that could potentially turn into greater issues down the road.
And they're all super effective. The things that you're doing are very effective. And you know what? When you stop, you say it's really hard to connect the dots on that, but in all honesty, all you have to do is stop and think about it. And you say, if we teach our kids problem-solving skills, resiliency, things like that, it's obvious that we struggle in those areas. And if we can do that before they're ever in crisis and their vision begins to narrow on the problem, then we're just better off. And that will ultimately bring down the number of suicides, which is the goal of everybody, right?
Right. I mean, that's what we're about. I mean, our goal, of course, is 0 suicides in the county. That's the only acceptable goal there is. Same as like 0 fatalities that you see on the road. That's what we're aiming for. And I love that we've brought these things up. This idea of evidence-based practices, of personal resilience, and that idea of having a village to look out for each other, right? Connecting with one another. Because I mean, it's just like you said. Suicide is a very complex issue.
It is.
We know that it's never as simple as their girlfriend dumped them, they just lost their job, they got arrested, or whatever it may be. It's never that simple. So why would our approach be super simple too? Right? It takes a multifaceted, multi-pronged approach to actively address this thing. And some people might look at it and think, like you're saying, they would have trouble connecting those dots. Like, well, why would you, as part of suicide prevention, why would you be teaching substance misuse prevention too?
But they're all connected.
It's all connected, and it's connected in those risk and protective factors, right? Especially because we know that many suicides that take place happen while under the influence.
Yeah.
Sadly.
Yeah.
Right?
You know, and I for one, didn't recognize that connection until my wife and I were working in the addiction recovery program for 4 years. And I'm sitting in those 12-step meetings, and I'm seeing people that are in current crisis right now. And so, you know, they talk about prevention is prevention is prevention. Any form of prevention, it all connects, it all intertwines. And so you have to be looking at all those areas in order to solve the goal.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
And something that I kind of want to throw in there as we're discussing this is a thought that I've had recently about apathy and how contagious it is. If a community, if as a community we're like, you know, these things aren't issues, or it's not directly impacting me, or that, you know, that we lose that sense of community, that in itself becomes a risk factor.
Yeah, that's a dangerous road.
It is a dangerous road.
You know, if you just say, well, you know, there's nothing you're going to do about it. You know, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen, and that's dangerous.
Well, I talk to my kids about it because they're just going to make whatever decisions that they want. While part of this is true, it's based on a fallacy that as a parent you don't influence your kids' decisions, and that's not true.
Yeah. Totally false.
And so I think that you know, something that we've done kind of on a broader scale, I guess, of prevention is trying to find ways that as a community we can bring people together on common issues that everybody can get on board with. That's why we put so much emphasis on community coalitions. You know, just this past year we've been able to jumpstart a new community coalition for the Grantsville city community, which Kevin chairs or facilitates, and one for the Stansbury Park and Erda and Lake Point kind of area. They call it the Stansbury Park Prevention Coalition. We also have one in Wendover going, and we partner a lot with Tooele City Communities That Care, and it's because that is that sense of community and making our neighborhoods and things a safer place where kids know that there are people watching, and that there are people that care about them, want them to be safe, that their parents would care if they went and did something very dangerous or risky or something, that or that their neighbors are watching out for them. And so that's very, very upstream types of talk, and sometimes it's really hard you know, people aren't going to know that what we're doing is trying to address substance misuse and it's trying to address suicide. But if we can build that sense of community and get rid of that apathy that sometimes infiltrates in communities that get larger and larger and larger, and people know each other less, there becomes a sense of community and responsibility for everybody, and it's and the kids pay for it.
You know, when you did that and you branched out those community coalitions, I thought, what a great idea, because for those of you that aren't familiar with Utah, Tooele County's huge.
Yeah, it's really big.
100 miles wide and like 80 miles deep. I mean, it's a big county land-wise, and so Wendover is so far away from the other communities that without having that there, you're not seeing the problems that particular community faces.
Exactly.
Stansbury and Grantsville, great examples. And so when that happened, I thought, what a great idea, because then you can bring people into those coalitions that live there. That's their community. So they have a reason to want for more, right?
Definitely.
It takes a village.
And so I thought that was a great idea when that came about, when you were doing that.
And I would recommend anybody that's listening right now to you know, take a look, ask around in your community, find ways to get involved in those coalitions, because heaven knows that they need your help.
We do. We need your help. Yes.
Whether you're in Tooele County or if you're anywhere in the state of Utah or anywhere in the world, that there are organizations that are looking at these types of topics, and they want to find ways to add protection to their communities and to the lives of the youth. And so find ways, get involved. They definitely need the extra support.
Yeah, and I was going to say, and it doesn't matter what community you're in, there's somebody that's working in prevention.
Yeah.
And find that person, find out where everybody brings something different to the table. And we need that. We need that diversity, and everybody brings skills. And so whatever your skill is, let them know what your skill is and see where you can be best utilized.
Absolutely.
So we kind of talked about the upper kind of big picture of the prevention efforts that we're doing. As we do try to find narrower and narrower ways to address specific issues. And so, there are different types of classes and what we would call the direct service, where we'd bring a course to different groups based off of their need and kind of what they're asking for. And Kevin knows a little bit more about some of those. So
yeah. So as far as this goes, I mean, this is really that idea that what we're trying to address here is that people want to help but don't know how.
Yeah.
Right? They're like, I see this problem. Like it was my nephew, it was my cousin, it was my friend's grandpa, whoever it was, and they're really hurting, and I want to know how I can help. And so these classes that we offer are things that anyone can do. It's not relegated just to healthcare professionals, first responders, etc. Obviously, they're very appropriate audiences for any one of these educational courses that we offer, but these are things that anyone can learn. So the one that's probably most well known is QPR. That stands for Question, Persuade, Refer, and that's what we would refer to as a gatekeeper training. So that's for the general public. We have different modules for specific audiences that John's taught several of these in several different settings. But we have them for religious communities, for first responders, for gun owners, those kinds of things. So we can customize it based on those needs, right? But it helps people to know what the signs are, what to be looking for, and how to ask the suicide question, which for anybody who's listening, it's asking the person who you've noticed has had a change in mood, some kind of crisis, just that someone that you care about, and say, hey, are you thinking about killing yourself? Are you thinking about suicide? And it's very direct. There's other ways that are less direct, but that's the gold standard way. And then how to get them to the help they need, right?
And how long is that training?
Just 90 minutes. We try to keep
That's
it.
nothing. 90 minutes. The one thing that I like about QPR that they bring up, when you're teaching that course is if you're struggling with an issue and you need CPR, who do you want around you we want everybody to be trained in CPR so that if you're in need, there's someone there that knows. And so that's something I've really liked that you guys have been doing is that big community push to get QPR out there so that if our community is saturated with people that know the signs and what to do in that crisis moment, we're going to save lives.
Absolutely, and that's the idea, right? Is to get as many people trained in these as possible, and that's so that they know the resources too. They can get people to, because this class we say right in QPR that nobody taught QPR is going to leave there as a mental health expert or a therapist or whatever it may be, but it's just like CPR. Anybody can do CPR. Anybody can do QPR until that more professional help arrives. Right?
Yep.
And walking hand in hand with that person to get them to that help.
Which kind of also adds to that no one should be afraid of seeking out that course, right? And participating. That it's not like it's going to be something super scary or that they're going to be expected to have to do, talking people down from buildings or anything like that.
There's no graphic images or anything like that.
That it really is. This one is designed specifically for those who just want to know what those warning signs are. How to engage that person, asking the right questions, and then connecting them with those resources. Question, persuade, refer.
So it's kind of like your entry level, a course that everybody in our community really should have.
It really should. And of course, COVID has frustrated a lot of that. Yeah. We used to be able to go to businesses and wards and other congregations, and we've had to move that all virtually, which we've had some attendance, definitely not as much as we'd like.
Yeah,
but
it's definitely thrown a wrench in it.
It's just about everything.
Yeah, for sure.
But we've been given permission to do it virtually and had some success with that.
Good. Yeah, we absolutely have. A couple of other things that we do. Mental health first aid, we don't offer it personally, our prevention staff, but we work with folks who do. And this is a more intensive course. It's 8 hours long. They've actually changed it so that it's 4 hours online and 4 hours in person.
Oh, great.
But what that is designed to do is help people not just look for the signs of a suicidal crisis, but any kind of mental health crisis. If they're experiencing psychosis or a schizophrenic episode, they're going to be able to notice it and, again, help them get to the proper resources, and there's a very prominent suicide prevention element of it. So that's if you're looking for something more in depth, more robust, I'd say that mental health first aid is a good place to go.
Well, you know what I was going to say? If you look around, there are a lot of people that struggle with mental health challenges, and that's okay. I mean, if you're paying attention, there are a lot of people that struggle, and there's a lot of stigma to that. So it's really nice to have the mental health first aid so that you're aware of, okay, well, this one kind of goes with that diagnosis. These are the signs of this diagnosis, and you know how best to treat those people, because let me tell you, there are so many things available to people that are struggling resources, whether it's medication and things that I love that training because it really breaks it down.
And what's great is that there's also there's an adult version and there's a youth version too. So it's able to be adapted to those two different demographics, which is great. One particular kind of, I should say, new to us gatekeeper training is known as Working Minds. Because we know that far and away, the demographic that dies by suicide most often in our county and in the whole state is working males. Right, ages 22 to 54, blue collar especially, construction industry sees it a lot. John, I'm worried about you.
Yeah, you should
be. But this one is designed not for the general public, but for HR managers, for supervisors, people who within their organizations have employees they can look out for, who can revamp policies, more of that upstream stuff to help their employees be more mentally healthy, right? And these can be things like providing wellness days or having a therapist on site at your place of business, or a floating therapist who you can call at any time if an employee is struggling, things like that. So Working Minds helps to, encourage them and invites further education and collaboration.
See, what it really gets me really excited about Working Minds is that it shifts. It does some of that training and discussion with those supervisors and those HR people, but it also kind of it turns it into a workplace wellness kind of a discussion, and finding ways to make the working environment more friendly to accessing resources, right? So, having, this could, in theory, we would like to facilitate those discussions after this training, to have an employee assistance plan, EAP, employee assistance plan, developed for that organization, which would maybe perhaps provide a couple different complementary therapy appointments after with a firm that offers mental health treatment. It could be for grieving, or it could be a divorce. It could be your child is struggling or something. Making there's lots of stuff that can be wrapped up into an employee assistance program, but that if what we can. It's one thing to talk about it and then we do some training with trying to improve skills, but also changing policy that makes the environment more conducive for the mental health of the employees. That's a win-win-win, right?
Yeah, it is, totally. One thing that I liked about the Working Minds was the fact that, you break your 24-hour day down. You're going to spend 8 hours sleeping. You're probably going to spend 8 hours at work. And the other 8 hours you're in between stuff, Right. And so you don't think about it, but really, workplace is probably a great place to teach suicide prevention, because you're surrounded by people that is this a normal behavior and mood for these people? You're on the front lines, and if you are empathetic and paying attention to those around you, you really could be involved in saving the life of a coworker, and you probably spend more time with your coworkers in many cases than you do with anyone else.
Yeah, I mean, that's what the data shows, is that we spend more time with the people we work with than our own families in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
Right? So that's why it's so important to be hitting at where the people are.
Yeah.
Right? And so,
so that one's fairly new that we've been trained in and that we've been offering to the community and trying to find kind of an in with different organizations. So that's another one that if anybody's listening that owns or runs a company or has an in with an organization that would like this training and would like to start some of those discussions of how to improve policies and make it more mental health friendly, and making it so that supervisors and stuff know those signs and how to best help those that they supervise. That we would love to come out and to arrange that.
And also at no cost to you, I should add, with all these trainings so far.
Free 90 free.
Yeah,
that's our favorite price.
That's right. We're happy to provide it. I mean, there's no such thing as a free lunch. I mean, we subsidize it with various grants and funding resources that we use, but it's really invaluable.
Yeah, I mean, the cost may be zero, but that doesn't mean there's no value.
Right.
Exactly. Well said.
That's right. So, as far as some other things out there, I mean, John could definitely speak. You can speak more to this. Safe Talk and Assist. Those programs.
They're just kind of a geared up version of suicide prevention. What I like about both of those is they go hand in hand. So the first one of the two, they're kind of a two-prong deal. Safe Talk is your first, and it, for instance, the last time I taught that was to all the counselors in Tooele County School District, which is nice because it gives you more time. It's a half-day training, and it gives you more time to really discuss the handoff of someone that's in crisis and getting them, they call you a helper. You're a helper in assisting that person to get them to somebody that can really treat it. And then the second phase is the assist, where you become the person that you're taking that person to, and you're able to de-escalate. And that one, I believe, is 6 or 8 hours assist. But, if you're in prevention and that's something that you're working in, man, those are good to have. And I don't know about you guys, but for me, take it once, take it again, because there's so much stuff you pick up the second time. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm slow.
No.
You're getting more every time you do it.
But you know what? Those things, there's a lot of overlap in each one of them, but, the intent of them takes it to a different level each time. And so really, really good trainings.
Absolutely.
And so, a handful of those first few, the QPR, the mental health first aid, and Working Minds are ones that we offer at the health department or otherwise coordinate. And then, that we have these wonderful community partners that we work with, like Life's Worth Living Foundation, to offer that Safe Talk and Assist. And we really couldn't do as much as we are able to do without these different partnerships. And so, I don't want it to appear like, we're doing all this by ourselves, because that's not it at all.
Well, and that's kind of the cool thing, I think, especially in our community. And, I can't talk for any other communities, but that's one thing that I think I've liked the most, is the fact that, you've got the school district doing their deal, and the health department doing their deal, and communities that care doing their deal. And everybody, it's like fingers on a hand. So, if you take one of those away, try doing something with 4 fingers instead of 5. And you know what I mean?
Sure.
If everybody's willing to do, and I got this from my friend Nathan Osmond. His grandmother said, "You'd be surprised how many things you can get done if you don't care who gets the credit." And I think that's one thing that I've liked about our community, because everybody does get along, everybody works well together, and I think that is probably one of the reasons we've seen such a move in position for the county, is because everybody is working together.
Our collaboration is unmatched.
Yeah.
I feel like, I again, like you said, I can't speak for every community out there, but it's really impressive how everyone comes to the table and they pitch in and they share what they have, and it's strength. It's using strengths to work towards the same cause, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and especially because our relationship, even with the organization Life's Worth Living, has kind of been we're at the dance and we're both at the other side of the gym, as it were, and we're aware of each other and everything. And finally, we decided to just walk up and ask if we can dance, right?
Yeah.
So what that's culminated in is something that we're really excited to talk about tonight, and that's man therapy, right?
Therapy.
This is a brand new to Tooele County thing that we're doing with funding provided by NAMI. And also with Life's Worth Living has helped us get this off the ground. We're so grateful for that. But essentially what it is that it's a campaign that originates out of Colorado that focuses on that demographic that we said dies by suicide the most. Those working males, 22 to 54. And the way that it does it is it's not the typical, like, you know, here's a picture of a beautiful sunset and a running river and, you know, like, reach out, someone's there, kind of messaging. Rather, this is like, here's the smell of bacon. Isn't that great? And it uses a lot of tongue-in-cheek, manly messaging to encourage men to engage in those local resources and learn some individual resilience skills, to educate themselves, and those are found on Men Therapy site. We'll talk more about that in a minute. And what we're aiming to do with this is just to break down some barriers using Tooele's own brand of kind of that rough and tumble humor that, you know, may not play as well in other counties in the state. I'm not going to speak to that very much. But,
well, you know, they say know your audience, right?
Exactly.
Know your audience. And the one thing we know from man school that all of us have attended is that men don't ask for directions. We don't read instructions. And so, yeah, you've got to lay it out in a way that whatever group you're, you know, and again, knowing your audience, you got to lay it out in a way that they're going to retain that information. And so this is really cool.
yeah.
So essentially, you know, the names may be a little bit misleading because it's not actually like a therapy modality, right? Like it really is just is a campaign and a website that uses humor to try to start that conversation, right? About checking in, you know, how is your own mental health? What have you done to recreate yourself, right? And to go and you know, has different resources on the web. You know, all the creative and the material that we've been able to acquire with our license with this campaign directs everybody to this website, right? To gather those different types of resources and you know, there's kinds of like mindfulness techniques that are really funny off the wall. You know, there's videos, maybe.
Yeah, I've got an example here. So maybe what we can do is even put the link to this in the
show
YouTube
notes.
description, right?
Yeah.
But the campaign uses this fictional doctor, Dr. Rich Mahogany, who's a mustachioed Ron Swanson type guy.
You know, like Ron Swanson from the
Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, what's the actor's name? Nick Offerman.
Yeah, Nick Offerman.
So he uses that like air of manliness and humor to help with this kind of thing. So this is the audio, but you're welcome to check it out in the links below as well. This is cooking tips.
Back it up to stage.
Picking up new hobbies such as cooking is another manly way to avoid depression and reduce stress. Today, I'm going to teach you how to make my world-famous guaco mahogany. First, mash up 5 or 6 of these green things. Then add hot sauce. This lettuce stuff. These red things. Salt. Some of this stuff. And limes. And finally, bacon to taste. Delicious.
And then there it leaves the
So
the
that's
website's address and
that's the man version of the Food Network.
Yeah.
exactly right.
Some of this stuff, some of that.
They're not going to tell you where those peppers were grown. Who cares? You know?
But you know, and so there's tons of videos like that. That same Rich Dr. Mahogany character does a thing about yoga, and it's super funny, a little mildly inappropriate, but
Which works for this county. Just saying.
Which totally works for it. You know, and I think it's kind of got just enough shock factor to get people to say, wait, what was that? You know? And then they'll back it up and listen to it again. And so, yeah, I think it's really a cool deal.
Now, you know, we were really excited. We had kind of identified this as something that we wanted to do probably a year or so ago, and have had a hard time kind of getting our foot in the door and figuring out how we wanted to navigate that. But that just like Kevin said, just finally, asking to dance, right? Approaching my sort of living foundation, saying, maybe this is something that we could work on and work together and get this going because it's what like Kevin had said, that this demographic, this age range of working class males, it's not abnormal, I guess, on a national level to see higher rates in that regard, but it's especially significant in our county.
Mm-hmm.
And we sometimes we do in prevention focus a lot on the youth and in schools because they're captive audiences, and because what better could we do than try to get an upcoming generation prepared for the future. But this is an area of our citizens, there are community members who have the least amount of access to mental health services, and our suicide rates reflect that.
Yeah.
I'm going to say we collectively, we all fit into that age demographic, but that we're the least likely to ask for help. Were we to need it. We are afraid to try to ask for time off, or don't feel like we could ask for time off to have a daytime appointment to seek out a professional mental health services. The list goes on.
Because we don't want to be seen as weak. We don't want to be seen as inferior. The thing that's most exciting about it to me is the fact that I'm going to age out of that system way before you guys. 54 it is. I'm almost there. So
I have some bad news about those 85 and up, though. So,
so I'm going to get to that. I'll test the water for you before you get there.
But suicide is a lifespan issue, right?
It is.
And this particular demographic is so much more at risk, but they're also, like you said, just have that lack of access. And of course, the whole stigma. We talked about that earlier, that I will go to the doctor if my arm is falling off, but otherwise forget it.
Right.
Yeah. How much is it going to cost, right?
Yeah.
It's a real problem.
It's, they had a comedian years ago that said, I can't remember who it was, but somebody said, yeah, Grandpa has a little cancer, so he says, give me my pocket knife, I'll cut it off. And that's kind of the same type of thing. Men don't want to take that step, And so this is a cool way to bring it to them and say, listen, you know what? There's things you can be doing in a funny way and really get the attention of the group that you're aiming this towards. And so, man, what a cool thing.
Exactly. And that's kind of what the whole concept, or the overarching idea of man therapy is to increase help seeking, right? And in this demographic, help seeking behaviors of it's not that big of a deal to need help.
Yeah.
And sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but another thing too is that for a lot of us men, we might just think we're having a bad day and not even realize that we've been having a bad day for 20 years. Right?
Have you been watching me?
Right? And that's part of what this campaign does, is it helps especially gear people towards what they call the 20-point head inspection on the Man Therapy site, to be able to answer those questions, right?
Yeah.
Like, am I just having a bad day, a bad month, or is there something that really needs to be addressed here,
Yeah.
right?
Because we're not saying that everybody needs to go see a therapist, right?
No.
But this website and the 20-point head inspection, which is really funny, that's what they call it, can kind of help navigate, is this something that, going on a hike will be able to help with? Or is it something that you need to get some professional help with, right? And kind of help navigate that and connecting them to resources.
Mm-hmm. No, I love it. And it is funny because we will wait till the last minute to see things. And I like that, nothing against women in the county, but this is geared towards a group that we're seeing a problem with.
Yeah.
And, if the roles were reversed, we would have woman therapy. But this is something that we've got to, take time and investigate, because we do have a lot of men that are working blue collar jobs in this county from one end to the other, and we're the least likely to ask for help. And I think this is just a really neat way to kind of bring it to them and say, listen, check it out. Laugh about it. Now, you got some interesting places where you're going to place some of this stuff.
That's right.
So I heard you've got some stuff going up at Urinals Are Us.
Well,
we and how? Yeah.
So, that kind of brought us to the next part. We identified what, this using data, what groups needed the attention. We picked an intervention that we felt like or a medium to try to address it, but we had to figure out where can we put up this messaging and this media where people will see it, specifically our target population. So we got our creative thinking caps on, and we thought, well, where are men? And what we first came up with was let's get some messaging up in the bars, the local bars and pubs and fraternal order groups, and get some of the messaging up. Our first kind of push with actual physical creative or messaging is going to go up, and those as like posters above urinals. I mean, I'm sure you've seen like in different places where they have those like acrylic sign holders, and they have announcements or whatever, because you have a captive audience right there.
Right.
What else are you going to do but read something that's right in front of your face? So we thought we're going to put up these posters above the urinals where men are most likely to be found and could use this message.
Exactly, and not only that, but we also have looked into coasters that have some messaging. That's something that Men Therapy already provided, but we made some customized versions.
Cool.
And
they're in production currently, actually.
They are in production, so we are going to get those out as well, and just have it be where men are, especially, again, knowing what substances have to do with mental health and suicide. It makes sense, right?
And I, for one, can speak to the urinal thing that, I was at a truck stop the other day. I was at a urinal in the truck stop, and they had advertisements for CBs. I now own 3. I didn't know I needed them, and it's there. You're going to look at it, and so what a cool way to dial it in. You keep it with the groups that most need it. They're getting it without even knowing that it's coming to them. So,
right. That's right.
What a cool way.
Yeah, not only that, we're planning on doing social media campaigns as well. We're going to try to do we're looking into some radio options. We're looking into video ads on YouTube or some ads on Spotify or things like that. So we've got a lot of different ways that we can have this go. We're going to have some T-shirts even to give out at community events. We can have those again.
Someday.
The same scale, right? That are really slick looking, if you ask me. Like things that people would actually wear, not like your family reunions T-shirts.
Yeah.
What's that? You'll
Talking about mental health issues. Visit a family reunion.
But again, and it's all very positive, right? It's very positive. It's man approved, and we know that based on the results that the Grit Institute, they're the ones who are behind this works. So we're really, really excited to get this thing going, and we should have those things up within the week, we're hoping.
Well, I thought, this is really time appropriate. So the time this airs will be Monday the 19th, and so that probably sometime within that week.
Yep, should already be up, I'm hoping.
We have all kind of mapped out. We're going to get a bunch of all those signs up in the different bathrooms, men's rooms, so whatever the appropriate term for that is, men's rooms this week, and kind of we've been scheduling those out. Remind me what specific locations to be watching those for.
So Bonneville Brewery is on board. Applebee's will have a couple of different posters and coasters in different places. We've got the Venus Club. We've got the Fraternal Order of the Eagles, the Moose Lodge, and the Elks Lodge. They're all on board for this. And there's a few others that I'm not remembering right this moment. But we've gotten
We
some,
can wait. No, I'm just joking.
But we've got like some interest from the J&J Lounge. We've gotten some interest from some other places. But everyone we've talked to has been really, really excited about it. So
We probably should throw up a disclaimer and just let women know. I know that this stuff is really funny, and it's funny not only to guys but to women, but we better not see you sneaking in the men's room to look above the urinals. There are laws against that. So.
Yes. Unless they're unisex bathrooms, then they're going to be there.
Yeah.
So
And that's just our first push, right? That's gonna be our first wave is the bars, some of those kinds of locations. But we're kind of scheming up some different ideas, reaching out to some of those workplaces, right? We've thought of we've kind of brainstormed about first responders. We've looked at those warehouses. We have lots of warehouses.
the Army Depot as well.
Army Depot that we know that women work in these areas too, and I appreciate you kind of pointing that out earlier. Of that, this isn't to say that women's mental health isn't as important, right? Mm-hmm. But that whatever we can to try to gear this conversation and bring this message to where men are most likely to be found. That I think that's a worthy cause, right, and is valuable. So, again, another opportunity to get involved out in the community. If you have a warehouse or if you supervise somewhere and you're listening in, please reach out to us and let us know, because we would like to be able to put general messaging up, like posters that are around in lounge areas or break rooms, etc. We're not going to limit the posters to restrooms. That's basically what I'm saying.
We'll put them wherever you want them. That's how we're going to do this.
Except for the ladies' room.
Right. And so, yeah, really exciting. We're just really pleased with kind of how things are kind of rolling out and trying to find ways to grab men's attention, right, and to make this discussion a bit more digestible.
Yeah.
Interesting phrase of words given the topic at hand. But anyway, speaking of digestion, we're also looking, and we started this with porta potties as well, because we know that some men don't go to an office, they don't go to a restaurant to work, and they're on the job. So hey, let's have some messaging in the porta johns. Why not?
Yeah, exactly. And I, being a contractor and in that demographic of 22 to 54, I've seen my fair share of porta potties.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
Exactly. So trade jobs and things like that construction.
Yeah. And the one thing that I've mentioned on the podcast before, this is the second year Tooele County has been the 7th fastest growing county in America. So, that's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. We've got a lot of growth. We're sitting in GTM's model home.
Right.
They're digging 3 holes a day.
No kidding.
They're starting 3 homes a day. That's amazing. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, you guys are geniuses.
Oh, gosh.
Because this was a great idea. And, man, I appreciate the fact that you guys were willing to kind of take something that was a little bit out of the box, because I think it'll work. Mm-hmm. And what a cool thing.
We hope we'd be doing our homework on this, and that would be something that'll be well received. And we understand that some of the humor may not be for everybody, and we're trying to find more appropriate ones for the general public, and then ones that are a little bit more off-colored for areas that would be funny. And so we ultimately don't mean to offend anybody or to make light of a very serious topic, but that it's a conversation that needs to be had.
Yeah.
And a little humor goes a long way.
Definitely.
And it's, again, know your audience, and you're not going to approach a junior high school with a message in the same way you're going to approach middle-aged men.
Exactly. And something that a lot of criticism that prevention gets, and something that I kind of foresee as being a discussion to move forward, people saying, oh, well, what is a poster doing to reduce, suicide or whatever? And I don't think that poster itself, that 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, is going to keep somebody from harming themselves. Mm-hmm. But like we talked about this entire time, it's about those conversations and addressing those attitudes and beliefs and norms that we have in our community that are not conducive to a healthy living. And so, we get criticism sometimes, and is a coaster going to stop somebody from harming themselves? Probably not. But if that message that's on there takes them to the website, connects them to resources, or finding different types of actionable things that they can do to develop skills and to ground themselves, to reach out to somebody, then it's done what it's designed to do.
If it connects one person and it makes that person realize that, life's worth living, they're not going to take their life, it's a win. Exactly what you said that, and one thing came to mind. We were installing the Veterans Monument, the first Veterans Monument in the nation that addresses veteran suicide. Mm-hmm. And someone wrote and said, "What are you supposed to do? Stand and stare at a statue till you don't want to kill yourself?" No, the point is it has plaques that connect you to resources. And so there's always going to be people that you can't please everyone, but you know what? This is going to, it's looking at it with glasses and saying, this is exactly where we need the help. And I really believe that you're going to see a reduction in that area because of what you guys have decided to do. And so kudos to you. I think that's really cool. So tell me this. If someone within the community, even if you're out of the community, somebody in the community wants to connect with you guys and find a way that they can maybe either be a partner in this or join in one of the coalitions and things like that we've talked about, there's a lot going on in the county. And sometimes it takes having a conversation like this just to let people know, oh man, I didn't even realize all that stuff was happening. It's all behind the scenes, right?
Right.
It's kind of a thankless job, and it's behind the scenes, but you guys are doing so much. So how do people get in touch with you?
So some of the best ways to get a hold of us is we have an email address that will get forwarded to all of our prevention staff at the health department. Mm-hmm. And that one is preventionservices@tooelehealth.org. Mm-hmm. And they can email that, and it'll get connected to all of us, and one of us will be able to reach out and get them involved and to address their inquiry that they have. Or they can directly call me, and my number is 435-277-2363. And that and we can get them connected with the different coalitions and the different efforts that are going on.
Right, or they can even get in contact with you and you'll pass it along as well.
Absolutely. I'm good at giving messages. So so we talked about a few things tonight that, if you've got a big business with a bunch of employees that you think maybe this would fit well with, let us know.
Yeah.
Not only that, but maybe if you've got the funds and you've got the ability and you see that this is a need in the community, and you want to partner on this, reach out to the health department, reach out to these guys, because any help would be needed. Unfortunately, the more money that comes in, the more places that these can be placed and the more visible. And that's, again, the goal, trying to get in front of as many people as we can. And so anything else I'm leaving out?
No, I mean, we are very grateful for the National
Alliance on Mental
Yes, and National Alliance for Mental Illness.
NAMI,
and that grant that we've received that's made this upstart possible, and the contributions and partnerships that we've had with the Life's Worth Living Foundation. But anything that we can get, anything more, whether it be to try to get some different types of collateral or messaging up in these different places would be welcomed with open arms. That we, or even for us to be able to do another year of the campaign, because this license was only a year license, and then with COVID and our transition that we had from Valley over to the health department kind of slowed kind of the upstart of this. And so if we had the opportunity to secure additional funds so that we could do another year and more collateral, more messaging, more targeted approaches of marketing this message out there, we would be ecstatic.
Absolutely.
And so
we will not turn anyone away. If you have even if your HR building is located in Salt Lake County, great. We'll go out there. We'll provide the working minds training. We'll do that. If you only manage a small team and you feel like there's something you can use, great. Let us know.
Yeah. We're not going to rule anybody out, right?
No,
not at all.
So yeah, and you know what? Be watching for it, because as this airs, you'll start seeing those things pop up around the community. And if you're a guy and you're at the urinal, after you're done washing your hands, shoot an email and tell us what you thought. Yeah. You can email me at lifesworthlivingfoundation@gmail.com. You've got Peter's email that will go to the prevention team at the health department. Let us know what you think when you see these. Even if you're a hater, let us know what you think. But be watching for these things, and we'd love to hear thoughts, right? Mm-hmm. So that we know how better to dial it in. And please, if you've got businesses in Tooele County that you think this would be fitting for, reach out to us as well, and we'll make sure that it happens. And so, man, I really appreciate you guys being here tonight, taking the time and being willing to share all of this. And like I said, in 2014, when we were just starting the foundation, it's interesting, and I point the finger at myself all the time and say, I really didn't know that there was very much going on in the community in prevention. Because if your eyes aren't on, if it hasn't affected you personally, you might not realize all the people in the shadows that are doing this work behind the scenes to make our community a better place. And so that's probably one of the coolest things for me, is the fact that now I get to be involved with all of these amazing people that are doing amazing things all over. And, just be able to rub shoulders with guys like you. I mean, it's been awesome for me. I'm the winner in this deal because you guys, like I said, you're geniuses, right? So I appreciate all that you do. I appreciate the time and effort you put into trying to figure out how we can best serve our community. So it's been a blessing to us to be able to associate with you, and I appreciate all you do. So hope you know it. And guys, if you're watching this or listening to it and you're in a tough spot where, you're having thoughts that are scaring you or you're just in a place you don't want to be, please reach out. Don't do this alone. I don't care who you are, what's going on in your life. Things can be figured out. So reach out to the Lifeline. If you don't have somebody in your circle of friends that you can trust and reach out to, that you feel safe and secure with, call the Lifeline, 1-800-273-8255. Doesn't matter what time of day, they're there to answer that call, to listen to you and help you through it. So please don't do it alone. Reach out. And again, I want to give a big shout out to our sponsors, to GTM Builders. Man, if you're thinking about building a home, now's the time to do it.
That's for sure.
They are rocking, and I can't believe, the amount of people that have decided Tooele County is the place to be. So reach out to GTM Builders. Visit them at gtmbuilders.com. A. Warner Homes Real Estate. If you're thinking about building, you probably ought to sell what you're in. So interest rates are low. Reach out to A. Warner Homes Real Estate at 801-867-5078. And if you just want to come out, spend a weekend and see what we're talking about out here, come take a vacation to Tooele County and stay at the Comfort Inn and Suites in Lake Point. Give them a call at 801-250-3600. That's a lot of numbers.
That is a lot of numbers.
I am impressed.
Back in the day when we had our rotary phone with the 30-foot cord in the hallway, I mean, you had to remember everybody's numbers. I don't even know my own number. And so that's a lot of work. So that tells you how much I appreciate the sponsors for putting their name with ours and being willing to be part of this message that goes out every week. I know you don't come to listen to me, and you come to hear these amazing guests. So thanks again for joining us for another week, and we'll see you next week. Take care.